Hey everyone, it's Marc the Bruin from Simplifying Life. Here I am sitting in my bloody jumper and a shirt underneath in the good old subtropical Queensland where winter has set in. It was pretty chilly this morning, about 6 or 7 degrees or something. Not nice. Hey, I want to talk to you about a conversation I had with a client. Usually these little videos are prompted by conversations with client about telling another story. This client has gone through some major stuff in his life over time, and he was talking to me about all the stuff he doesn't like, he doesn't want, and he didn't enjoy, and how pretty much his current life is affected by what happened in his life beforehand. And that made complete sense. It had a massive effect. And I said to him, it's like, you just keep going back to that old story. It's like trying to explain to me, the counselor, why your life currently is really not how you want to have it. And yep, he said, yeah, but that's how it is, Marc. It's like, and then he told me what happened in his old story, what had happened in his life, and again tried to explain to me that this is how he became to be who he is now, and why he wasn't feeling as good as he could be. And that's where I became a little bit strict with him, all with good intent and all very empathetic. But it's something I'd like to get across to you as well. And I am strict with clients. So like, look, if you don't like where you are right now, and you think that your past has got something to do with where you are now, as in all the events in your life, and predominantly the negative ones, have led you to feel and be how you are right now, then you really got to start telling a different story in order to create a different future. And I know it sounds a bit cryptic, but it comes really practical. And I'll give you an example. It's the exact example that I used with this client as well. I said, look, my story, it's not a very interesting one per se, it's my story, but I know the story. I know what happened in my life. So the facts are that I grew up a single kid. My parents died fairly young. My dad died at 48 and I was 12 years old. My mum died at 60 and I was 26. So, and there's a couple other events. They divorced when I was about 7-8 years old. Now, I can spin a story, and I'm not talking about spinning as in making something up, but I can say, that I was a single kid, so I didn't have any brothers and sisters, which is really sad. Then my mum and dad split up, which was the one thing I thought was never going to happen in my life at all. It was one of those events, impossible events. It couldn't happen, but it did, which made me very sad. And I think I've suppressed that for a number of years because I just didn't understand. Anyway, that's a story I can make up. Then my dad dies, when I'm 12 years old, which is very sad in itself as well. And, I suffered from that for quite some time because, again, I didn't understand. And then, at age 26, I become an orphan. Now, I can spin a story about that and say all the problems in my life that I might be experiencing right now. The not liking it when I see people divorce, or not feeling great, about being a single kid and not having any brothers and sisters. I can use those facts and interpret them in a particular way that actually could make me quite depressed if I choose to run with that interpretation of the actual events. But I've learned, and this is not something I've always done, so trust me, I had to go through my restorying, but I worked on changing the narrative. I have changed my story over time to get over the grief. No, I don't like that one, getting over, but to get through the grief, to come out the other end, and to learn to live with what happened in my life. And the story I now tell is one where I'm absolutely brilliantly appreciative of these two people becoming my parents, because they taught me so much. And the fact that my father left us early meant that I had to grow up pretty quick, and therefore became a young independent person quite quickly, which actually helped me to stay afloat and do a lot of good things, to be independent, be stubborn, but also being okay with doing things my way, and finding out what it means to be a guy, rather than having a paternal influence there. The fact that my mum died pretty early as well, saddening, but it actually allowed me to do particular things, i.e. moving to Australia, that I otherwise wouldn't have done. And the fact that they divorced when I was 7 or 8 years old, which devastated me, has actually made me more committed to my current relationship with my partner, and to relationships, for other people, as a couples counselor, for instance. So the way I look at the same facts, the divorce, the passing away of my parents, has really been determined by my way of looking at that. Yeah, and for a great number of years, I looked at that from a very negative point of view, something that was devastating, that brought me down, that made me feel depressed, sad, lost, lonely, etc., until on each of those facts, I chose through some hard work and some discipline to have a different perspective on it. And that's what everyone can do. It's not easy necessarily, but we can do it. We can choose to, from this day forward, instead of repeating that story and dragging our current emotional set point, if you will, the other way we feel forward, from this point actually to start telling a new story. Make a new story. Make it up. Don't go airy-fairy, but find a different interpretation, find a different meaning to what happened into your life to see how it actually benefited you, what you took from it, how it has made you a better person, how you can now perhaps be a better counselor or a better friend or a better anything because of what you went through. So really re-script your life in many ways. Now, it's tricky because your mind will not believe you because it's so hung up on the old story and it's so embedded in your system, embodied, that you probably don't feel that that's correct. But over time, as long as you keep telling that new story, as long as you keep going with it, the old story will slowly fade away. It will, because you're just not telling it anymore, at least as little as possible. The new story will then become the predominant narrative. Yeah, and this is what I was talking about with this client. Now, you can either do that literally, actually write a story out, just write it. Now, and sentence starters could be, it is great now that I, or what I have learned from my past is, or it will be awesome when, or I look forward to, or I'm so grateful because, or I can't wait until. All sorts of sentence starters that allow you to move in a different direction than that old story that's not serving you. So I know this is a topic I can talk hours about and probably needs a little bit more explanation, but the idea being everything in your life up until now, all the events up until now are a story. They are a story you spin based on the facts, based on the events, based on the things that have happened in your life and the people you've met. If you don't like parts of that story, or if you don't like these events, you really want to start re-scripting them, restoring them. And that's part of narrative therapy as a modality. But it could also be part of our personal therapy to shine a different light on what happened and to come out in another way. Same facts, different story. So if that's of interest and you want to know more about it, you know where to find me. Find me on Facebook, find me on my website, simplifyinglife.com.au, or anywhere else. Just type in my name on Google, I'll pop up somewhere, and happy to chat with you about that. So hope that's useful. Enjoy your day, and until the next time.